As you can see on screen, heavyweight contender Eric Molina has tweeted that he will be going to Manchester to fight Anthony Joshua, and that an announcement on that fight is imminent. There was a short list of names that Eddie Hearn was talking about Anthony Joshua fighting since the Klitschko fight fell through. One of the names on there was Bryant Jennings. One of the other names I've forgotten, and the third name was Eric Molina. When I look at the IBF top 15, and I don't have the list in front of me here, I'm just going to go off memory. You had names in there like David Haye. You had David Price. In fact, that was the second name on the shortlist. It was David Price, Bryant Jennings, and Eric Molina. So you got David Price on there. You got David Haye. You got Jarrell Miller. You got Kubrat Pulev. A few others in there. Kubrat Pulev, although he's not really interested in the fight. Now, out of the short list, to me, Molina's the most disappointing. And I don't mean any disrespect to the guy. I've heard several interviews of his and he seems like a really nice person, but I'm just being real. Eric Molina has been in some high-profile fights. He was in a fight against Chris Arreola, which he lost by first-round knockout. He was in a world title shot against Deontay Wilder. He ended up getting stopped in that fight as well. And he also fought Thomas Adamek, and that was a fight he ended up winning by spectacular knockout. In all three of those fights, he showed some strengths and also a lot of vulnerability. First of all, in the Chris Arreola fight, he was knocked out in the first round, so the vulnerability speaks for itself. But he did actually hurt Chris Arreola in that fight. And one of Molina's strengths, apart from the fact that he is a pretty decent puncher, is that he's sneaky. He knows how to set up his power, Eric Molina, and land it on you. He is very sneaky with it. That's one of the things that I can say I am fairly impressed with him about, is his sneakiness. Then you look at the Deontay Wilder fight. Again, we saw the sneakiness, but we also saw the same vulnerability that we saw against Chris Arreola. To me, the Wilder fight was more a case of Wilder looking unimpressive than Molina looking impressive. Wilder, to me, looked very nervous. That was his first fight in front of his hometown crowd. He was eager to impress, and I just don't think he relaxed and enjoyed the occasion the way he should have done, the way he has in some subsequent fights. So I thought Wilder looked very poor, but even though he was very poor in that fight, Molina never came close to winning. He had one moment in one of the rounds where he landed a shot which appeared to rock Wilder for a second or two. But Wilder is so ungainly. He's so unorthodox. He's such a beanpole that sometimes when he just falls off balance, like he's tripping over his own feet, because he looks clumsy at times, Wilder, it makes it appear as though he's been staggered when he actually hasn't. Don't get it twisted. He is capable of genuinely being staggered or hurt, 100%. But there's also times when I see Wilder, as I say, looking like he's almost tripping over his own feet because he's just a bit clumsy at times. And I think it was more of that against Molina rather than him being seriously hurt. Because, as I say, he never went down. He never came close to going down. I thought he was under a lot more pressure against Berman Stavern, when Stavern had him on the ropes and was landing some shots on him. But, yeah, Molina did show that sneakiness against Wilder. But every time that Wilder touched Molina, even with a speculative shot, because Wilder's punches were not particularly clean in that fight, but every time he touched Molina, Molina found himself on the canvas. Wilder can punch, we all know that. But I just feel like Molina's punch resistance is not the best. We saw that in the Arreola fight. I think we saw it in the Wilder fight as well. And in the Thomas Adamek fight, he was being outboxed. Now, Adamek is a good boxer, but he's certainly not a natural heavyweight. And he was outboxing Eric Molina comprehensively up until he got a bit tired and Molina managed to catch up with him and knock him out. And that was a very over-the-hill Thomas Adamek. Anthony Joshua has the ability to use his height and reach pretty well. He hasn't demonstrated a back foot game as yet, but he has demonstrated the ability to command the center ring and to keep his opponent at arm's length, whereby he can land his shots and his opponent can't land theirs. And he's able to land before his opponent lands. The fact he's able to do that, the fact he is strong, he does hit hard. And Anthony Joshua's a thinking fighter. He's not as instinctive as a guy like Deontay Wilder. Wilder is more instinct than thought. Wilder will go in on you, where he's emotional and he's just throwing the absolute kitchen sink. Now, Joshua has had his moments like that, but for the most part, I would say he's more circumspect than Deontay Wilder. And because of that, I expect him to deal with Eric Molina in far more clinical fashion than Deontay Wilder did. This is still heavyweight boxing. Anthony Joshua has been hurt, as we saw against Dylan White, so anything can happen. Lennox Lewis was not supposed to lose to Oliver McCall or Hasim Rahman. He beat far better fighters than those two guys. So, at the time, he wasn't supposed to lose to guys like that. But he did. We have to bear that in mind when it comes to any heavyweight fight, I guess, because these big men with little 10-ounce gloves on, when they start letting the leather fly, strange things can happen when those shots connect. Stuff that ain't supposed to happen. Stuff that ain't in the script. But barring some type of bolt out of the blue scenario, I see Anthony Joshua, if this fight goes ahead, because this is not yet signed, we haven't heard a formal announcement, but if it goes ahead, I expect Anthony Joshua to deal with Eric Molina easier than he would have dealt with a Bryant Jennings. The David Price thing, possibly even easier than Price. Price is a fight, I think, where Joshua would have had to have been a lot more careful against Price than he'll have to be against Molina, in my opinion. And the fight I really would like to see Anthony Joshua in, since people like Joseph Parker, Vladimir Klitschko, and Kubrat Pulev, also Huey Fury and Berman Stavern, since those guys are off the table, out of the remaining IBF top 15 ranked heavyweights who are available, I don't see why Anthony Joshua won't fight Johan Duopa. Duopa on social media has been screaming for that fight. But his screams have been falling on deaf ears, apparently. Eddie Hearn just ain't hearing it. So, I don't know, maybe it's a risk-reward situation. I can't help feeling disappointed about the prospect of Eric Molina versus Anthony Joshua. I'm just being real with you. I think that's a disappointing matchup. I think that, as I say, Johan Duopa, much better. Duopa never hit, late in the fight against Wilder, I think he was up against the ropes, wasn't he, when he was stopped? So maybe the rope stopped him going down. But to me, he's a more dangerous heavyweight and a tougher heavyweight than Eric Molina at this stage. He's also bigger. He's got a good jab. Maybe not the biggest puncher in the world, but he certainly had a good knockout win over Robert Helenius. And if people are questioning Anthony Joshua's chin, how bad is his chin? Is his chin as bad as Helenius? Because if it is as bad as Helenius, well, Johan Duopa might have the capability, if he lands that same right hand he landed on Helenius, of knocking Anthony Joshua out. So that's who I would rather see than Eric Molina, and even, as I say, a Bryant Jennings or whoever. Why is Eddie Hearn picking Eric Molina if this fight actually goes ahead? What's that all about? Is Joshua being protected, wrapped in cotton wool, like a lot of people are accusing him of being? Maybe he is. There are some people who believe there was some type of elaborate scheme which was hatched by Team Joshua and Team Klitschko to pretend as though they were going to fight when neither of them had any intention of fighting each other this year, but to try and build hype for a clash next year. There are some people who believe this, that both Team Joshua and Team Klitschko were scheming in the background saying, look, let's pretend that we're going to fight, and build up the fight, and then we're going to fight next year, so we'll just mess them around, and I'll go and fight some donut and you go fight some donut and we'll meet, and cash in next year and all this hype that we've created. Some people believe that's been going on. I don't know. Let me know what you believe in the comment section below. And if this Joshua Molina fight does get announced and is going to go ahead, let me know how you feel about it. Drop it all in the comment section. It's your boy Hatman. I'm out.